competition celebrates the exciting research and creative activity conducted by our very own graduate students here at Florida Atlantic. My name is Eleni Webster. I'm co-assistant director of the Speaking Center, and it is a pleasure to be your MC this afternoon. Developed by the University of Queensland, this exercise cultivates students' academic presentation and research communication skills. The competition supports their capacity to effectively explain their research in just 3 minutes, in language that is appropriate to non-specialist audience. For instance, instead of saying something very scientific like the dermis was saturated by microtoxins that resulted in ichthyosis vulgaris, a presenter might actually go ahead and say in more layman terms, the skin was allergic and ended up with a bad rash. Let us look at the history of 3MT. In 2008, the first 3MT competition was held at UQ with 160 higher degree by research candidates competing. Then, in 2011, the popularity of the competition augmented, and the 3MT competitions are now held at over 900 universities. In 2020, the famous year 2020, we moved to a temporary virtual format due to COVID-19. But now, in 2024, here we are at Florida Atlantic, about to commence the 4th preliminary round. Let's go over some basic competition rules. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes maximum. Do keep in mind that if you're even a second over, you are disqualified. So the screen is there for your use. It'll flash yellow when you're decreasing in time, and there's also a timer to hold up a 30-minute mark. Presentations are to be spoken word, sadly no poems, raps, or songs. Presentations are considered to have commenced once the presenter begins speaking or through movement as well. A single static PowerPoint slide is permitted, but there are no slide transitions or animations permitted. The additional electronic media, like sound or video, are not permitted. No additional props, so no costumes or musical instruments or lab equipment. And the panel's judges and their decision is final. Other quick reminders. This mic, unfortunately, cannot be held here. As you can see, the audio doesn't work as well, so hold it pretty close to your chin. If you would like to use a stand, please let us know, and Stephen will go ahead and move it center stage for you. So the podium cannot be used by our contestants, but they will be standing center stage to present. Presenters will be scored on several items. Firstly, comprehension and content. So the presentation requires clear motivation, background, and the research question. The presentation should also clearly describe the research strategy and the findings of the research. The presentation should also describe the conclusions and outcomes in a clear manner. When it comes to engagement and communication, the oration needs to be delivered clearly and the language appropriate, once again, for a non-specialist audience, so less technical terms. The PowerPoint slide should be well-defined and enhancing of the presentation. And lastly, the presenter conveyed enthusiasm, so I remind the contestants to please let your personality shine, let it come through. You can find a full list of rules and judging criteria in the program that is provided. We are the authorized counters of today's ballots, and the decision of the panel of judges is final. Our preliminary round today will receive $1,000. The first runner-up, $500, the second runner-up, $250. And the People's Choice winner will receive $500. In fact, it is possible to win the People's Choice and one of the others, and so you can intersect your rewards and earn even more money. So we invite you to attend the championship round that will take place this Thursday evening at 6 p.m. over at the Grand Palm Room here in the Student Union. So again, that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. And now, on to the competition. Our esteemed judges are with us today. We have Dr. Hoy, Associate Director in International Enrollment Services of Global Engagement. We also have Dr. Kudig, Associate Dean for Research, and Dr. David Newman, Professor and Biostatistician over at the College of Nursing. And now, on to the competition. Our students are representing the finest here at Florida Atlantic, and let's show them all our respect. So we may take pictures, but please no flash, and please hold your applause until after the student is completed with their speech and with their thesis. The timing will once again begin the moment that the presenter begins speaking. Starting us off, we have Saad bin Saeed Ahmed from the College of Science. The thesis title is Prognosis and Prediction of Treatment Response for Primary Glioblastoma Patients, an Artificial Intelligence Assisted Approach. Can we have Sad on the stage?
So, glioblastoma multiforme is a fatal tumor, one of the most fatal tumor in brain tumors. Its incidence rate is almost equivalent in all age stages, but the 5-year survival is less than 5% for those patients. Once diagnosed with the glioblastoma, patients have to go through for surgery. If the tumor is resectable, then the tumor is removed. But in most cases, the tumor is in such area where the surgery is not possible. So patient has to go through the radiation therapy and chemotherapy. So after radiation therapy and chemotherapy, these patients were subjected to very strict follow-ups. Follow-ups like on the images, MRI images, they have to go through multiple MRI scans after certain time intervals just to ensure that the disease is not progressed. But this tumor has high chances of progression. So the clinicians find it difficult to differentiate between the progression of the disease and the normal progression of the brain cells. So they have only tools to visualize this is the MRI scan. And on the MRI scan, it's not differentiable to what is the progression of the disease or other one is pseudo progression. Now, pseudo progression is basically when the normal tumor cells start developing, they look like similar in the MRI images as the disease. So to solve this problem, we designed an artificial neural network with the help of 180 patients' GBM data. And this data set consists of MRI images, their genetic indicators, and their also demographic information. So we basically trained the artificial neural network in two layers. One layer is of the imaging set, and the other one is of the text set. And after the learning of this model, the model can predict between the progression of the disease and the pseudo progression, which is basically false alarm. So what we achieve with this model is basically three things. One, now clinicians can have early prognosis of this tumor, and then they can distinguish between the progression and the pseudo progression. Second thing, they can now they can design the specific curative treatment for those patients. And third one, the patients now have less scans after the follow-up, and they can have like less less treatment follow-up scans and better treatment for their curative treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Saad. Great job, and great use of hand gestures as well as a very interesting visual aid. Thank you, Saad. Now on to our judges. Thank you again, San, and thank you to our judges. Also, another reminder again to keep the microphone relatively close to your chin so we can listen to your beautiful speeches. Next up, we have Isaac Tuzinski from the College of Science. Thesis title being Dynamics of Shark-Infested Waters, How Environmental Factors Shape Black-Tip Shark Migrations. Isaac.
This aerial photo was taken offshore here in Palm Beach County. Each one of those dark shapes in the water is a black-tip shark. Every winter, these animals gather here in their thousands. They start arriving around January, and they remain here until the end of March. Come springtime, these animals will head to waters off the shore of Georgia and the Carolinas, where they spend the summer. Now, while we know roughly how far north and south these animals travel, there's still a lot that remains unknown about this migration. For my master's thesis, what I'm interested in learning is how far offshore do these animals travel? Also, what seasonal changes in their environment drive these animals north in the spring? To answer these questions, my lab and I have been fishing for these sharks. We catch them, and then we release them with a satellite tag. Every time a tagged shark surfaces, that tag will communicate with an array of satellites and let us know where that shark popped up. We can then take this location data and map it using a software called ArcGIS. We can also use this to compare the migration with environmental factors such as sea surface temperature and ocean depth. And what we found so far is that the black-tip sharks don't always remain near the beach like this. They will make trips further offshore, but we generally don't detect them in waters deeper than 430 feet. We've also found that temperature is likely a strong driver for this migration. These sharks prefer waters between 71 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So when the waters here begin to heat up past this range, the sharks will begin their journey. Now with this in mind, we've begun to notice a disturbing trend. Each winter, we are finding fewer and fewer black-tip sharks here, while in the summer, we've started to detect them as far north as New York. What this could mean is that climate change is pushing the range of these sharks away from South Florida. Now, as humans, why should this concern us? Don't fewer sharks here mean safer waters to swim in and more fish for us to catch? But imagine for a second, if all these sharks here disappeared, all of the fish and crustaceans they would normally be eating will suddenly grow in number to the point of overpopulation, and eventually they will starve once their own food sources run out. By limiting the numbers of these prey species, black-tip sharks will keep the collapse of ecosystems from happening, ecosystems that people like beachgoers and fishermen depend on and enjoy. Like a lot of shark species, blacktips are threatened by overfishing and bycatch or accidental capture. Understanding where and why these animals migrate is an essential part of managing their fisheries. In short, we live in shark-infested waters, and we should work to keep them this way. Thank you.
Amazing job, Isaac. Your enthusiasm radiated through you, was very contagious, and your use of eye contact and hand movements were perfect. Great job. On to the judges.
Technology for this.
Judges, and thank you, Isaac. As frequent beachgoers, most of us, that concerns us. And a great conclusion as well. Next competitor we have is Brent McKenna from the College of Science. Thesis title being Tailing Fish Travels, Movement Dynamics of Mud Snapper and an Impacted Coastal Nursery.
If you've looked for housing recently, you've probably come to terms with the fact that there is an important housing crisis in Florida. Like many other economic crises, the housing crisis here is driven by a mismatch between supply and demand. Demand for housing is high, but supply for the right housing simply isn't there. Now, I really couldn't tell you what the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent is, so I'm probably not the person to lecture anybody here on what a housing crisis problem actually is, at least not for humans. I can tell you though that we are not the only species in Florida with a housing crisis problem. There is a fish housing crisis problem in the ocean around Florida because of environmental degradation that has occurred over the last 100 years or so and is ongoing. Unfortunately, housing is complex in the marine world, so fixing it has not been simple or straightforward. Of the many species that have been impacted by this issue, one of them is the species, the largest fish you see to either side of me, the mutton snapper. They use a multitude of habitats throughout their life, so if the issues that they face change between when they are young and when they become adults. My research has sought to understand why and how they are utilizing inshore habitats. I use a process called, or a technique called passive acoustic telemetry to understand the movement patterns of these individuals in inshore coastal areas and what habitats they prefer and why they prefer those habitats. By giving these animals a miniature tracking device, they can tell tales about what they do in their habitat and what homes they prefer and why. Simultaneously, I collect environmental data like salinity and temperature that I can then associate with the movement data to parse out what makes a good habitat and why. By combining all of these data, what we have seen so far is that once a mutton snapper finds a habitat that it likes, it doesn't like to move around from there, and it certainly isn't going to move far. It really prefers seagrasses, and it generally prefers warm, brackish waters. Within this habitat, the mutton snapper can tolerate a range of salinity and temperature that's much greater than just warm and brackish, but it tends to constrain itself to the conditions that best suit its preferred habitat, the seagrasses. Although my research cannot stop the ongoing housing crisis, it can help us understand what makes a good home for a mutton snapper.
That not only affects humans, but also local marine life. Great way to make it relatable to your audience. Good job, Brent. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you, Brett. Nice job. Our next competitor is Christopher Spagnolia, with the title, from the College of Science, the title of the thesis being Modeling the Effects of Climate Change on Coral Reef Interactions. Christopher.
I have the pleasure of transporting us to the miraculously beautiful coral reefs. Our nation and lives are immensely impacted by the ecological and socioeconomic services of reefs. Now, did you know that the annual monetary value of reefs is approximated at around $3.4 billion? Now, this is an astronomical value and hard to assess accurately, but the real value of the coral reef ecosystem, lies in what it provides in terms of our connection to nature and our collective identity. This makes these systems invaluable to our society and our sense of self. Now, science has gaps, though, in its knowledge, and our current understanding for how interactions in reefs are changing in response to climate change is undeveloped. Therefore, I'm excited and motivated to bridge this unknown by evaluating and predicting what interactions will dominate the future reefs of Florida. The science I conduct involves image analysis, long-term ecological research sites, and mathematical modeling. I use these tools to investigate the effect of climate change on interactions between organisms living on coral reefs. Now, the diverse, funky group of organisms that I work with includes hard corals, macroalgae, soft corals, and sponges. And to evaluate how these organisms interact, I developed state transition simulation to track their changes across time and space. Now, once the model is parameterized, I can introduce disturbances like marine heat waves to assess how the community dynamics respond to the change. For example, maybe there's more competition occurring on a reef now. My model outputs forecasts that if Broward County is to experience annual severe beaching by mid-century, our reefs will contain more interactions between soft coral and sponges. The repercussions of this change have yet to be fully explored, but could involve changes to the prevalence and abundance of fishery species, the erosion rates of the calcium carbonate structure of reefs, as well as the habitat available for things like snapper or other reef life, like turtles and worms. Now, I'm excited to expand this research to the Caribbean Sea, incorporating more sites and more organisms, more coral reef organisms with species-specific information to better understand and predict the trajectory of coral reef ecosystem and how we may be affected in the Anthropocene. Now, knowing which interactions are occurring are important towards the development and maintenance of natural communities, but it may also help us understand ourselves more. Thank you.
Standing job, Christopher. We love your introduction and the structuring of your speech. Great job. Councilor Debs. Judges, and thank you, Christopher, for sharing your fascinating research with us. Next up, we have Hamid Akbari, from the College of Engineering and Computer Science, the title being Space is Your New Limit, Not the Sky. Hamid.
Artificial intelligence in space exploration, space is our new limit. So we are in an era that we're trying to grow the space exploration and hopefully C-3PO and R2-D2 along with us. So a spacecraft is a very complicated and a complex machinery, millions of parts, sensors, hardware, software, they all comes together, years to build, billions of dollars. And they work in a very harsh environment. Temperature minus 445 Fahrenheit, staying fluid. So, there are army of people on Earth, on the ground, sitting and looking in 24 hours in all this information, millions of gigabytes to come in, to figure out if there is something wrong or not. The problem, finding a needle in a haystack. So, let's come back to it and I'll give you an example. You're leaving to go to work, your spouse takes the kids to school, all of a sudden 2 minutes later, she calls and says, honey, my brake light is on, come and take the kids. I'm not gonna go anywhere and I'm gonna stop here. You have to change your plan, get the kids, reverse everything, be late at the work. Wife take the car to the dealership, 5 hours later they say false alarm. Was nothing wrong with it, a glitch. Imagine if your car was smart enough to figure out the light that is about to come on actually is false alarm. This is our research is all about. Finding with artificial intelligence that actually is something is wrong or not, and report those that are real problem to the ground. So our crew, our astronaut can safely travel in cosmos, and that is important for their safety and their being. So, with the help of artificial intelligence in the space explorations, we are hoping that help us to get humanity boldly go where no man has gone before and make space our new limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamid. The passion you had for this topic radiated through. It was definitely contagious to the audience. Thank you. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you, Hamid. Your use of humor and powerful expressions were very effective in getting our response. Our next contestant is David Kaufman from the College of Business. The title is there a correlation between radiation exposure from mammography and breast cancer? A retrospective analysis of currently available data. We have David Kaufman.
Good afternoon. Have you ever wondered if mammography causes breast cancer? Well, I have. And because of that, I looked at available data, and I was startled that there are so many gaps in the data, and it's not clear, and we don't have an answer. My research is going to look at this, and we're going to see if mammography radiation causes breast cancer. We're also going to attempt to validate all existing studies or invalidate them. But you may be wondering, why is this such a big problem? Why? Well, did you know that breast cancer is the #1 cancer in American women? And did you know that it kills more women than all other cancers except for lung cancer? In fact, in the United States in 2024, we're going to see an estimated 370,000 new cases of breast cancer. Sadly, 42,000 of those women are going to die. The magnitude of this problem is exponential. And part of the issue is that screening mammography is the only acceptable tool that we have to look for breast cancer. So many women are afraid of getting a mammogram because of the exposure to ionizing radiation, which is dangerous and cumulative. We know that because it causes cancer. Not all the news is bad, thank God. Since 1989, we've seen a decrease in the rate of death from breast cancer. Why is that? Because of screening mammography. Mammography helps us find cancers when they're small, early, easily treatable, and curable. But it's a double-edged sword. Breast cancer has affected everybody in this room. We all know somebody with breast cancer. However, the data is not so sweet because we also have seen a trend in young women. Young women between 40 and 50 now have an alarming rate of breast cancer on the rise. My hypothesis is it's because of screening mammography. We need to answer that question. Young women's breasts are more sensitive to radiation than older women. The same goes for women who have a genetic abnormality, like the BRCA gene. They get more breast cancer because of mammography. We're going to prove that. And then for the future, we're going to examine all existing standards for screening mammography, which are haphazard and all over the map. It's confusing, it's erratic, women don't know what the right thing to do is. We're going to have a universal standard for mammography. And finally, the other part of my research is going to look at developing a safer alternative that works as well as mammography to save more lives. Thank you.
Thank you, David. You should definitely work in sales. Sold your hypothesis extremely well and made something that could have been very complex extremely simple to understand. Thank you, David. Thank you, judges, and thank you, David. Your balanced use of statistics proved your relevant message perfectly. Next up, we have Rana Mazumder from the College of Business. The title being Staring into the Abyss. Does accounting face a looming enrollment crisis? Rana.
Good afternoon. So we all are here because most of us are enrolled into an program into US institution. So though I pick accounting as the context, but this enrollment cliff crisis is relevant to all types of programs and courses. So why is it important? Because enrollment is kind of related to the different types of policymakers and also important to the across academia and industry. Moreover, in recent days, American Institution of Certified Public Accountants, they started a campaign to address this pipeline crisis. And this pipeline crisis, they motivated themselves and other parties involved in this game so that they come forward and provide some context, some ideas, so that they can solve the problem. And also importantly, when organizations, the educational institutions, they plan their budgets and their policies going forward, they have to keep in mind the enrollment situations as well. So though the declining trend in the birth rates starting from 2008 gave a background to this study, but enrollment cliff is started taking an impact a lot earlier than expected. So after 2010, there was a declining trend in the enrollment situations across different US institutions and across the different demographics. So our study has found that across different demographics, across different types of institutions, be it a big school, smaller school, all are getting some kind of influenced by this enrollment cliff, and this enrollment cliff is no more looming. It is already started happening. So based on these situations, the policymakers and people or the stakeholders from the industry, from the academia, they should come forward and take some initiatives. I can give an idea what sort of initiatives being taken in 2023 in the 118th US National Congress. They passed a bill called the US STEM Pursuant Program for the accounting, so that they can somehow address the situations and increase the pipeline to the accounting enrollment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rana. Your hand gestures were perfect and really emphasized the urgency of the thesis that you were making. Thank you. On to our judges. Thank you, judges, and thank you, Rana. Your confidence when speaking is something we can all imitate. Lastly, I'd like to bring to the stage Eloise Finley from the College of Education. Her thesis is Beyond Survival, a primer for how to thrive in graduate school with mentorship, essential resources, and practical techniques. Eloise.
And if you recall, freaking out during your first semester of grad school or are freaking out now about your dissertation, you're not alone. PhD students are notoriously stressed. They often feel adrift in an ocean of academic without a life vest or a compass. But wouldn't it be nice if universities tossed them a life preserver every so often to help with their academic and emotional needs? That is what I'm proposing today. True, universities provide support through their libraries, writing centers, and counseling services, but that alone is not enough. Proactive measures are needed to support students' success academically and emotionally. Students know about self-help resources. They also know about mentors. I, however, propose a mandatory pre-course that will provide students with comprehensive orientation throughout the program. It would also provide them with innovative resources and connections to empathetic mentors for the duration of the program. This mandatory pre-course would provide students with the knowledge and tools they need to succeed. The first tool, access to resources such as the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, which offers all sorts of tools to help students thrive, not just survive, in the academy. This would also include access to useful YouTube videos that will help students with how to write a literature review, how to find the research gap, and how to prepare for publication. The second tool would be access to empathetic mentors who would bridge the gap between the structure and support within the academy. These mentors would also provide guidance to these students on how to use the resources effectively, as well as offer personal guidance through the highs and lows of the academy. Let's face it, the journey to a PhD is challenging. It includes numerous obstacles and stressors, but this journey can be navigated successfully with the right resources and support. Together, we can guide our PhD students to a voyage of success rather than discouragement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eloise. The structure, the tone, and the topic is especially relevant to each and every one of us in this room. On to our judges. Excellent job, Eloise, and you did it confidently and right at the nick of time. That concludes our fourth preliminary round of the 3MT. Presenters, you can now breathe. Round of applause for yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the awaited time to vote for the People's Choice Award winner. Please go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen to select the competitor that you feel should win this. Just some pointers to keep in mind when voting. For example, did the presenter present things clearly? Their background, their significance, the research behind it. Were the conclusions, outcomes, and impact also clear? Engagement and communication, did they deliver clearly? Was the single PowerPoint slide effective? Did it effectively contribute to their thesis? We have about 1 to 2 minutes to vote for your People's Choice Awards. Nobody stopped. Nobody stopped. Okay, here we go. Let's announce the winners. I'd like to invite to the stage the Graduate College's Director of Admissions and Enroll Management, Stephen Stett. He will be presenting the awards for this round. The second runner-up has been earned by Hamid Akbarian. Congratulations, Hamid. Our first runner-up is David Kaufman. Congratulations. Thank you. Now, our People's Choice Award winner, we have Eloise Finley. Congratulations. I would also like to tell Eloise Finley to please remain on the stage because you are the winner of this round.
If we could get all the winners up on stage too, just take a group picture real quick. Is that okay? All the winners, the winners first, the contestants.
We're going to leave David and Eloise on the stage, and then we'll have a picture of all the contestants.
Yeah.
You have to show both of them. Two hands. There you go.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, thank
And we get judged up on stage two with our contestants and our winners. So we do the judge with the winners, and then we do the judge with the other contestants. Make sure we get that phone.
I know, right? I'm not that pretty.
If we scoot over a little bit. We're all friends, we all smell great. Perfect.
Thank you. One more time, please. Thank you.
And then we'll get all the contestants on the stage, and all of our judges.
Okay.
In the words of Eloise Finley, everyone who presented is a winner. So please stand on the stage.
Try to be mindful of height, not that a height is or anything, but maybe you have some people in the back and other people up front.
Yeah,
Windows.
yeah, we can.
Scoot in a little bit more. Perfect, there we go.
Good spot, please. Oh, you're good. Yes, please. Awesome, thank you so much.
Speaking Center, shameless plug, but two of the contestants that are going on to the final heat came and visited us.
Oh.
Scan your card to register for Thursday, March 21st at 6 p.m. over in the Renton room. That's 6 p.m. on Thursday. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you, and you should all be proud of yourselves for having the confidence to come up with a basis. Thank you.
Yeah, for your.
They'll
be comments. Yeah, they're going to give comments to you guys. Yeah, they should have the comments. I know it's all electronic, so they might email it to you.
I'm sorry.
See the feedback.
Yes.
Also, it's attendance.
I think it's really when you start class. Yeah,